Good day, and welcome to part 2 of the trilogy of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful Owners and Managers. In part 2, we're going to discuss habits 2, 3, and 4. Habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. Habit 3 is put first things first, and habit 4 is think win-win. Let's review for a moment what we learned in part 1 of the trilogy. Habits are what make your life good or bad. There's something you do daily. You have no idea that you're doing them. It's like brushing your teeth. They are just part of your life and who you are. When you put them together, that is exactly what they do. They make you who you are. There are good habits, which give you a good life and a good company. And there are bad habits, which give you a bad life and a bad company. What are the 7 habits of highly effective people, the 2% we talk about? Being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first, thinking win-win, seeking first to understand and then to be understood, synergizing, and renewal. If you remember, we talked about habit number 1, which was the first and most basic habit, but if you can't get that one under control, you cannot get any of the other 6 habits under control, and that is being proactive. You have to take responsibility for your life, for your actions, for your feelings, for outcomes, your outcomes. You have to act or be acted upon. You are responsible for your actions. You have the ability to choose your response, and you have the ability to do that, and the obligation. So let's talk about habit number 2, our new habit. Beginning with the end in mind. We talked about it a little bit in the introduction when we talked about the funeral scenario and what you want people to say at your funeral. This is what's in your heart and soul and what people are going to feel and see in your heart and soul. It starts with a clear understanding of your purpose in life. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to leave behind as a legacy when you have completed your life? What's your purpose here? Oliver Wendell Holmes said, it's what lies beyond us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. It really does matter what's inside of you and how you're going to lead and how you're going to live your life. These are your values, their leadership and management values. Habit number 3, which we're going to discuss next, is about doing things right, processes and doing things the right way. But habit number 2 is all about doing the right things. This is really the last time you're going to have a chance to almost strategize about your life when you talk about habit number 2. It's what strategic plan do you have for your life and what things do you want to accomplish and what kind of values do you want to have. Some possible values that you can look at and understand. These are, once again, not huge things like I'm going to just make my life better, but you analyze each little thing that you do in your life and you develop a habit in each one of the little things, just like the 113 action items we have when we go through a company and analyze each little detail of the company because we don't know where the kinks are. This is the same thing. You develop a lot of habits in your life. One possible habit is always listening to both sides before making a decision. I cannot say I'm good at that. I hear something and I want to run with it and I really don't want to take the time to listen to the other side. This makes logical sense to me, but a value that people who make good decisions and are people who are respected very highly are people who always listen to both sides objectively. Maybe learning one new thing a year, although as an owner of a company, I think that goes without saying. But stepping out of what you have to learn and learning something in addition to that. Like I went and learned Spanish. I cannot begin to tell you what that did with my Hispanic employees and what it did for me personally. I mean, I love to travel now and use my very poor Spanish, but use it. I learned that new thing. Planning tomorrow's work today. This is a really important one. When you leave the office at night, and gosh knows, we clean 95 houses a day. When Nancy was on vacation, it was very difficult to leave that office, stay in that office as long as it took before that day was laid out for everybody the next day. I had other help, yes, but I took over her spot. And I didn't know it that well, and I stayed there and got that done. I don't care how tired I was, because if you think you're going to go in the next morning and get it done before the cleaners get there, if they have to pick something up in the morning, we only check ours out twice a week, but if you think you're going to have those new sales laid out and not laid out and ready to go, and you're going to catch it quick in the morning and come in early, you know something's going to happen in the morning, and you're going to wish you had done it the day before. And if nothing does happen, oh my gosh, what a nice, relaxing morning, and you deserve that. Another thing you can work on is always being positive and happy. There are some people who do this very well. I have a friend who is just phenomenally always happy. He wears life like a loose cloak. He doesn't let, or loose robe, I'm sorry. Doesn't let anything bother him. It's what can you do about it anyway? He lets things roll off his back, but fixes problems. So he doesn't belabor on things that it doesn't make any difference anyway. He does not spend time on non-important thoughts. And he's always happy and positive because he's always fixing things, and so therefore people are always happy with him because he's always fixing everything instead of being a naysayer when you see him. Some other possible values are always being organized at work. When somebody comes in for something, can you just give it to them right away, or are you digging around your messy desk trying to find it? Are your schedules, do they make sense, or are you constantly calling cleaners and saying, oh, no, don't do this, go there, or no, don't do this, do that, oh, I forgot about this person? Are you organized? Is your admin work, are you on top of your admin work? If you are not, set a plan and action to get organized and make that one of your value changes, because you're mentoring your people. So if you're unorganized, why don't they think it's okay for them to be unorganized? Don't be afraid to make a mistake. There's another value. People are afraid to do anything because they can't do it perfectly. I had a consultant once who said, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. I get what he means by that. Don't not do it at all because you can't do it perfect, because you're not going to do it perfect the first time anyway. And then when you make mistakes, correct them rapidly. Don't let that broken vase sit on your desk for 3 weeks before you get it fixed and get it back to the client. Get it to the shop the next day and get it back immediately. They're going to tell other people about how remarkable your customer service was, or they're going to tell other people they're still sitting around waiting for that vase. Correct your mistakes immediately, and you will get referrals from your mistakes. Take my word for it. Then you also, when you're beginning with the end in mind, and you want to know what you want to value, you need to know what's valuable to you. Who's at the center of your life? Is it your spouse? Is it your whole family? Is it your possessions? Is it your friends, or is it your enemies? I know people are enemy-centered. I read on LinkedIn sometimes when people talk about their competitors, and they go on and on and on and on and on. And I'm thinking they're enemy-centered. That's what they're putting a lot of time and energy in today, is they're basically their enemy that they look at their competitors as. So what is at the center of your values and pushes your values has a lot to do with what your values are going to be. Your core values, pardon the pun, is what matters most to you. It's what is the center of your heart. Is it your spouse? Is it your kids? It really can't be both. My mother used to say it should go in the order of spouse, kids, yourself, although I'm not sure I agree with that, but I never had children, and a failed marriage. But she said if you put your spouse first, your kids can't be happy if the mother and father aren't happy. So if you put your husband first, you at least have that together, and then you can work on the kids being happy. Interesting perspective, but you can't have both equal, because there's going to be times when one needs to trump the other, and you need to be consistently behind one or the other. That's what I mean by core values. Nothing ever trumps it. You're going to stand behind your husband no matter what happens, no matter how much the kids are crying. When your husband says no, it's no, and you'll defend him and not say, well, kids, you know how your dad gets. That's not standing behind him. Same thing at your office. Another thing you need to do in order to keep your core values where they need to be and moving forward is you need to do a lot of planning. And you need to take responsibility for doing that planning, and you need to take responsibility for working the plan when you get to step 3, or habit 3. So I want you to put the webinar on hold right now and pause, and I want you to answer the following questions. What do you think is at the center of your life? What's the center sphere? Your kids, your family, your job, what's at the center of it right now? List at least 6 core values for your life, things that are very important to you, hopefully things that you do not have now that you would like to add, and that would accomplish 2 things. List at least 6 new habits you will learn and use in order to achieve the core values you have listed above. So I'm sorry, you've got your core values, and then you have 6 habits that you need to adjust, add, delete in order to achieve the 6 core values of life that you want to achieve. You could put it on pause and rejoin me when you're done with the questions. Welcome back. Now that you have a vision of where you'd like to be, we need to go ahead and work a plan to get you there. Habit number 3 is all about putting first things first, doing what we need to do. So habit number 2 is making a plan. Habit number 3 is doing the plan, working the plan. And I think every single one of us knows, any one of us who ever tried to go on a diet or start reading every morning or not eat after 8 o'clock at night or have one-on-ones every week without fail with our teams, we all know this is much easier said than done. There's no doubt about it. Developing new habits is tough. Habit number 3, putting first things first. This is the tedious and disciplined habit. This is where you make it happen, folks. It's not sitting there and planning and envisioning. It's not realizing that you have to be proactive and you can change your attitudes about things. This is getting in there, rolling up your shirt sleeves and getting it done. This is setting values and goals, because you can't roll up your shirt sleeves and get it done until you've set your goals. This is all about managing yourself. Nobody else is going to make this happen. You have to have the willpower to make it happen. But it's also about day in and day out successes. Little by little, you're going to step on the scale and see it go down. You're going to put on clothes you haven't worn in 10 years. You're going to see your turnover go down in your company as you do the one-on-ones consistently. You're going to see your attrition rate decline with your external client because your cleaners are much happier themselves. Day by day, as you add new habits that are good habits, your successes become more and more seen, but every day your life gets just a little bit better. In order to put first things first and have the discipline and the willpower, you need to value yourself. You need to think enough of yourself that, by God, you're going to do whatever it takes that day to start to daily discipline yourself for that new habit. And nothing's going to get in your way. You're going to learn to say no. Management is discipline. That's all it is. Managing your life, managing your employees, managing anything is nothing more than discipline. And you know what? This is one habit, one strength, attribute that all successful people share. They can put first things first. As a matter of fact, a successful person does have the habit of doing the things failures don't like to do. That's why calling your one-time clients back and you're never serviced or you're not sold or even canceled works, because the average cleaning company who has cleaned them one time as well is not calling them back. The average person calls that telemarketing and they don't like to do it, so they don't. Flyers work because, you know what, there aren't all that many flyers on doors, and especially not those that you put on yourself. So if there were 60 of them out there like there are 60 companies in most cities, it wouldn't work. But because you're doing things that most people don't like to do in the middle of the summer when it's hot, and people also don't like cleaning their houses when it's hot in the middle of the summer and they'd rather be at the beach, you're going to do something that most people won't do, and it's going to make you successful. You need to be very organized to put first things first. You have got to have your day planned. You've got to work your day. You've got to know what direction you're going in. You can't waste a lot of time running in circles. You need to set priorities. You need to know what is important, and you need to know what is an urgent thing, and you need to put equal time on both. Hopefully, as you do more important things, your urgent things will subside. You need to have everything written down. You need to check your values weekly, make sure you're on target for the things that are important. You need to use your time very wisely. You cannot be wasting time because every minute of every day counts. As I think I said earlier, it's the only thing we've all been given equal time, the only thing we've all been given equally, so this makes a huge difference in how your life ends up. And you need to set goals and targets and work those goals and targets, and not big goals without action item lists to support those big goals. You need to figure out the best way to get the most done, and that is usually by having an action item list and working that list. So, there are two things on which you can spend your time, either urgent things, which means things that must be done right now. They are urgent. The world's going to fall apart if they're not done, and they're very easily seen, like you walk into your office or your house and the lights are off. Need to go pay that electric bill. Easily seen, urgent. And then there's important things. They're crucial and they're vital, and the results will certainly improve your life, but they're not as easily seen, so therefore they don't get done as often. Ironically, urgent things they'll improve your life. But it won't, it'll just improve it for a short term. You're going to have to pay the electric bill again next month. Doing important things are results that will improve your life from now on. You'll never have the stress, like taking the time out when you get back to set up automatic payments out of your checking account for your electric bill, so your life never has to go through that stress factor again. Difference between urgent and important. So there are 4 ways in which you can spend the time of your life, in your life. You can either spend it doing urgent and important things. You can spend it doing non-urgent but important things. You can spend it doing urgent but not important things. And you can spend it doing not urgent and not important things. Most owners spend most of their life, and most people spend most of their life doing urgent and important things. They don't spend near as much time on doing important but not urgent things, and that's why the important things end up in the urgent pile and you start adding stress to your life. So what's urgent and important? Activities like somebody calls up and says an employee's dead on the bathroom floor. I would call that urgent and important, and I would get to that right away. There's pressing problems like the flat tire. If there's a team on the edge of the road with a flat tire, I'd also call that urgent and important. Lower than the dead employee, but still urgent and important. And then there's deadline things like unemployment filing is due by the close of business today. Hey, if all 3 of these come up at once, you're going to have a huge problem because all 3 of these need to get done. Shame on you for not having looked at the tires earlier, assuming they didn't run over a nail, and definitely for not having the unemployment filing done a couple days before it was a deadline thing, because you didn't know these other things were going to come up. So you need to proactively get at them when you can before they're urgent. People who end up spending most of their time doing urgent and important things are crisis managers. They get things done when it becomes a crisis. It's the last day, I have to get that unemployment filing out today. They're very problem-minded because they spend most of their time solving problems. Because they're always urgent, they don't have any time to spend on important things unless they're urgent, so therefore it's already a problem. They're very deadline-driven. They do get things done in time, but they are deadline-driven. People who spend their time doing not urgent but important things. Important things are like building relationships. They are spending your time going out and networking and building relationships so that your goals will be made because sales will automatically come in the door. They are also setting goals and plans, spending some time saying this is what I want to do next month and this is how I'm going to get there, rather than haphazardly saying at the end of the month, wonder why we didn't grow. How much did you want to grow? I don't know. Exercising, making sure that you stay in good shape, that when you are 61 years old like me, that you're not headed for the walker. And believe me, there are a lot of people my age that I know by age 70 will be on a walker. I don't want to be like that. So you have to exercise. You have to think about those things years in advance. Some of these things important. Can I skip exercising? How many times do I? But if I skip it forever, I will be on a walker when I am 70. Keeping healthy, doing the things that you need to do to keep healthy. Feeding opportunities. Opportunities are important. They're not urgent. You can let them go. You can live without them. However, if you feed them and you, oh my goodness, it could change your whole life. Like the opportunity of Memorial Day coming up in, in about 2 weeks. Cleaning for Heroes ties perfectly into press releases for Memorial Days. But you have to feed that opportunity. You have to join Cleaning for Heroes, which is free, and then you have to go ahead and do the press releases. So you do need to feed these opportunities. This is good for this webinar at this time of the year, but this is going to be true for people who watch this in October and Cleaning for a Reason. You need to belong to Cleaning for a Reason, and you need to, in October, Cancer Awareness Month, you need to put out a press release. Then Veterans Day comes right behind with Cleaning for Heroes. These are all important things. Can your company live without you doing press releases and hopefully getting on TV? Of course it can. Will it be a lot better if you do these things? Sales will come in the door faster. When you put the flyers on the doors and people have seen you on TV, they will be more apt to call. They will go, oh, I know this company. They were on TV. They're very philanthropic. People who do important things rather than urgent and spend a lot of time in that quadrant have a tendency to starve problems before they become problems because they fix them before they become urgent, before they become a problem. People who spend their time doing important things are very prepared because they take the time to prepare. They have the time. They're not under the gun, frazzled, and out of energy. They're energized in spending time proactively working on things. Things that are urgent but not important. Doesn't seem possible, but it's absolutely true. We all think if it's urgent, it's got to be important. That's not true. Some of our interruptions are urgent but not really important. You're in your office working on next month's sales plan. In walks one of your cleaners and says, in walks your office manager and says, is this a good time to talk about my sister's shower? Actually, no, it's not. Can we talk about that at lunch tomorrow? I really need to get this plan finished up. Now, could that plan go to the side and you give that attention to your office manager and justify it? Of course you could. But you're probably sick of working on the plan because you can't figure out how in the world to make the sales that you need to have to make the money you want to make. So you're going to do that interruption. Some calls are very unimportant. They're urgent but not important. Somebody broke up with her boyfriend, one of your girlfriends, or somebody wants to talk about what they think they should bring to the church social on Sunday. Urgent? Maybe, because you got to go, this woman's got to go buy her groceries before Sunday. Important? Not at this point in time. When you're at the office and you've got work things to do. I will tell you that every one of my girlfriends, so if somebody says, every one of my girlfriends starts their conversation with me, are you busy? I will, I'm absolutely on the other line, I will say yes. If I'm doing a consult, I absolutely will say yes. If I'm in the middle of something, I will say, how urgent is it? Let them tell me. I will, as a matter of fact, I will normally say, when they say, are you busy? I'll say, yeah, how important is it? Because they know if it can wait until evening, I will call them back. Just make sure you call them back. But all of my girlfriends and I have that courtesy for one another. Is this a good time to talk to you? You should start out all your conversations that have nothing to do with work that you are calling people at work with the opening. Is this a good time to talk to you? But if you're getting calls and people don't do that, you need to cut them off. Pressing matters. You know, Nordstrom's sale runs off at 4 o'clock today. You should be working on this goal. Your girlfriend calls. You take the call, says, oh, my God, the sale's up at 4 o'clock. Are you going to go? It's pressing. It runs off at 4. But it's urgent. Is it important? No. Or popular activities like a happy hour on a Friday night when you're in the middle of this and it's 3 o'clock and you're really into it and you have another hour to go before you finish all the press releases to get them out on Monday, first thing Monday morning, and your girlfriend's call and say, let's go to happy hour, or your buddies call and say, let's go play let's go to a sports bar. It's the big game, the big baseball game today. Popular activities, it's urgent, the baseball game's going to be over with, you either go today or you miss it forever. Is it important? No. So where do you spend most of your time? Then we have those people that spend all their time doing not urgent and not important things. And there are things that are not important. Boy, I really hate to say this, but an example I think of every time I sit on LinkedIn and spend too much time on it is how much time owners spend on LinkedIn sites. They're on 2, 3 sites. I know how long it takes to type. Sometimes I get into this on a Sunday afternoon when I get home from church, and I can find 2, 3 hours later, I'm still sitting there responding. Insanity. I see people who respond like this every single day. Think about it, folks. If you spend 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, or kick in Saturday or Sunday, whenever you spend an average of 2 hours a day on LinkedIn, you are spending 10 hours a week, 520 hours a year, or 13 weeks, or 1/4 of a 40-hour week on LinkedIn. Are you getting that much out of it? I'm going to tell you right now, because lots of people talk about marketing on there, if you spent 13 solid weeks of your life going out and putting flyers on doors, you'd get more sales than you could ever get from all the ideas you've ever picked up from LinkedIn and everything else you've read. You do need to learn to put a value on your time and ask if that's urgent or important enough to be spending that kind of time on it. Even if you only spend 1 hour a day, and lots of people do spend 1 hour a day on LinkedIn sites, Googling things, checking this, checking that, divide that in half. You're still spending 6 weeks a year, almost 7, looking into things that probably won't make you any money. Is that the best use of your time? That's why I suggest a things to do list, timed, and sticking to it. People who spend a lot of time doing not urgent and not important things have a very short attention span. They're working on their goals, they're working on the efficiency of hours of their teams, and it gets boring very fast, and they have to go do something else, so they go Google something, play some games on the internet, whatever. They normally have no plans, no goals, because that would be something important, and they don't do important things. They feel like victims, of course, because nothing's working out for them. They have poor, broken relationships because they don't spend any time nurturing them, because, again, that would be important. They take no responsibility for anything. They will probably lose their businesses, and these are oftentimes people we find on welfare. The government is having to provide for their needs. May we have no one listening to this video that spends all their time doing not important and not urgent things. So, how do you keep your priorities straight? How do you keep yourself working in the quadrant of important and not urgent things? You learn to say no. When that girlfriend calls and says, can you go to Nordstrom's, the answer is no. When that employee comes in and wants to talk to you about unimportant things in their lives, you listen for 2 minutes, then you get up out of your chair and you start walking towards the door and say, I'm so sorry, but I'm running late for a teleconference. Shuffle them out the door, close the door. You know by then whether or not it's important. 3 problems that people have in the habit number 3, putting first things first, is number 1, they can't prioritize. They really don't know what's important. As a matter of fact, they really think that spending an hour on LinkedIn is more important than spending an hour doing a one-on-one with the cleaning team. They don't have the time to have one-on-ones with their cleaning teams or solos, but they do have time to go on LinkedIn. These people cannot prioritize. They can't or don't want to get organized. They just, well, it's kind of like my good friend says. His number 1 on his things to do list is going to be, number 1 on his things to do list is make a things to do list, and he's just never gotten number 1 done. He can't get organized. He can't put things on a list. And it's because he doesn't want to, more than probably he can't. But some people do have a hard time just getting themselves organized. There are books on this. I would work with you on this. You've got to get yourself organized. Or they have a lack of discipline to do it, and I would say that's more the problem with people who can't or don't get organized. They have a lack of discipline to get started, because really organizing is mostly fun for most people. So you have to find the discipline to just do it, as Nike would say, the best saying there is. Do not prioritize what is on your schedule, but schedule your priorities, and that's very true. I wanted to get these webinars done today. As a matter of fact, I had to get these webinars done today because they're in my newsletter this morning. They weren't on my schedule, and that's okay. I flipped my schedule to do what was a priority. It didn't come off. It got shoved to tomorrow. So do not prioritize what's on your schedule, but schedule your priorities. I had other things that were possibly even urgent, but they can be done tomorrow. I definitely had things like that. I decided to pop in what I thought was important right now, and this was important to me. I, of course, turned it into urgent when I put it in the newsletter, but when I decided to do that, I decided this is important and I want to get this done because we talk so much about our cleaners and their values and their habits and what they do and don't do, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about ourselves as owners and our habits and what we need to do to develop our lives. So, in what area do you think you spend the majority of your time? Another time to put your webinar on hold and answer this question, on pause, I'm sorry, and answer these questions. In what area do you think you spend the most of your time? Urgent and important, not urgent but important, not important, not urgent, or not important and not. We're going to go back to that disc and put it up there for a while you follow this question. Is it urgent? Do you spend most of your time in urgent and important, not urgent but important, urgent and not important, or not urgent and not important? You could put this on pause, and I'll be back to join you for habit number 4, which is thinking win-win. Welcome back. I hope they gave you some time to give some thought to time wasters in your life and in your office and where you do spend most of your time. I have to admit, I've always said I'm a fifth quarter player and I get the most done in the fifth quarter, and that's probably true. But I'm also a high-stress person, and I have high blood pressure to show that. So I do think it would be better if I would be more proactive and try and spend more time with important things rather than urgent things. Now, what I want to talk about for a moment is whenever you step from independence, that state where you're all alone and you don't care about anybody but you, you're going to do your job, but it's your own thing, into the interdependent stage in any capacity, and that's what certainly the first 3 steps or habits should be drawing you towards, is an interdependent space. You step into a leadership role. You are now not just there thinking about just you, but you're thinking about the synergy of the group, about how everybody's playing off of one another. You want to be happy and you want everybody else to be happy. Sometimes that requires you taking the bull by the horns and leading people to the road of happiness. You must have the first 3 habits in place before you can step into the interdependency world. It's just kind of like you have to be independent before you can be interdependent. You have to have those first 3 habits, which really in themselves are a bit, certainly habit number 1 and habit number 2 are very much more independent habits. Habit number 3, of course, now it does get to the area of the interdependent, but you must have those first 3 habits in place before you can step into the interdependent world and start dealing with the habit number 5. So just want to make sure you understand that you are now stepping over into what is considered a new arena, the interdependent arena. It functions much differently than the other 2 arenas, and you are now influencing other people. And when you're influencing other people, if you care about the first 3 habits that you're developing, you're going to have you're going to basically think win-win, because that's what you have to think in order to be interdependent and be happy. So habit 4 is all about thinking win-win. There are 6 paradigms of human interaction, 6 things that can happen when 2 people confront one another. You can have, and basically, this is when you're having an interaction where 2 people have a difference of opinions. It's either going to be a win-win, both people walk away winning. There's going to be a win-lose where you win and the other person loses. There's going to be a lose-win where you lose and the other person wins. There's going to be a lose-lose where you both lose. There's going to be a win where you just win and you don't really care what happens to the other person. And then there's going to be there's going to be a case where nothing happens because you're going to say it needs to be a win-win or there's no deal. Nothing's going to happen. So let's talk about each one of these. Win-win is the frame of mind and heart that seeks mutual benefits. It's going to be good for me. It's going to be good for you. My heart tells me that will be good. That's the way I'm thinking. I want everybody to leave one another happy here. Everybody winners. You all feel good, and if you all feel good about it, you're probably also all going to be a lot more committed to the action plan that you have to make this thing happen. It's not your way, and it's not my way. Together, it is a better way. And if you can approach everything in life with that in mind, it's not your way, might not be my way, it might not be either way. What it is a better way. It'll probably be a combination of both ways that makes it a better way. Then there's the win-lose. This is the authoritarian way. This is what I hear an awful lot from my clients on the phone. I just ended up saying, it's my company, it's going to be my way. And I do hear these words come out of my clients' mouths a lot. When they're having a little tit-tat with one of their employees, they end up saying, it's my company, it's going to be my way. Or it is my company. When somebody says why and you can't think of anything else, probably because you're thinking win-lose and not listening to the other person really, and you come out and say, why? Because it's my company, you have lost right there. You might be the winner, but the other person feels like a loser, and you're going to be suffering from those consequences of those feelings. You're basically saying, I get my way, you don't get yours. And there's two different ways. You've met no medium whatsoever. You use your position of power, credentials, possessions, or personality to get their way. Again, you use your position as an owner, your position of power, your credentials, your possessions, I own the payroll check, I throw a bonus your way, I don't, or your personality to get your way. If you ever find yourself saying, because I'm the owner, because it's my company, whatever, stop right in your tracks and fix the damage you have just done, because believe me, you've done damage. That person feels like a loser. Then there's lose-win. You can play the martyr role that many owners feel. Oh, everyone has their way with me. Everybody just does. You know, I'm just give. I'm the best owner in the world. I help them out all the time. I'm a peacemaker. I'll do anything I can to keep peace. I'll give them off of work. I'll understand, I'll empathize with them at all times. I am the peacemaker. I am always the loser. You know what? That's bad for morale. It gives us our no-shows. If people think that they're gonna win and you're gonna say it's okay no matter what happens, they're gonna have outlandish attendance, and people who come to work every day and have to pick up for their slack aren't happy about this at all. It's very bad for morale. It also shows your weakness as an owner, excuse me, because you don't have the fortitude maybe to do what needs to be done here. You need to, that lose-win is never a winning position. You think it is, but people know you're losing and they're winning. Lose-lose. When the two cannot win, people decide we're both going to lose. And by God, I've seen that happen. Some examples I can think of is they don't care if they lose themselves. They never help me, so I'm not going to help them. People say this in the field all the time as teams. They are so slow, I'm not going to help them. I'm sick and tired of helping them out, even if they're a percentage and they're working on a team. How stupid is that? They just make less money and get home later. Or they constantly miss things, and I'm tired of catching it. I'm not going to fix it. Even if they have to go back and do a redo, and I've heard people say, oh, I saw that wasn't done, and I'm like, and you didn't fix it? I'm tired of fixing their mistakes. So you would go back to the home and not get paid for a redo because you're so stubborn that that's a true lose-lose. It's like when you have a standoff with a cleaner and they walk off the job. That was a lose-lose. You lost a cleaner that you maybe should have been talking to, and they lost a job. Where did anybody get in that whole situation? Then there's win. You don't necessarily want somebody else to lose, but you're going to win. They secure their own ends, and they leave it to others to secure theirs. I'm taking care of me. We kind of talked about that in the independent person. This probably is a very independent person. This is owners who don't, in my opinion, it's owners who don't reimburse for mileage. I'm not, it's my company. If you want to work for me, then drive your car and pay for the gas. I do have issues with that because they are making you money. I don't consider that a win-win. I consider that a win-lose, and eventually you will lose that employee. People who will badmouth previous team members to a client just to get a good tip, even if it means losing the client. I mean, if your team is going, yeah, well, that team isn't very good. Oh, my God, look at they missed this. Oh, my God, they missed that. I've had teams who have pointed out to clients what the previous team missed because they thought they would get them as a regular client. Instead, we've lost them completely. I call that a win, and they don't care about who loses. So what's the best option? Actually, it depends. If there's a value relationship and the issue isn't really important to you, you might be better off making it a lose-win. If you're having an argument with your significant other, your spouse, then it's over which movie to go to, and you can tell this is going to turn into a brutal battle. Is the movie really that important? This might be one of those where you want to lose and let them win. Sometimes it's just not worth it to you. Lose-lose is simply never right. If you're both going to lose, that's insane. Talk that through before you both walk away from something that could have been really good. And normally interdependent does call for win-win because you want everybody to feel good. Sometimes it needs to be win-win or no deal because it's just not going to work out. And if you're going to be unhappy with the outcome because you had to lose, you are the owner, you can always say no deal. Just make sure they feel comfortable with it. So there's 5 dimensions of win-win. One is character. In order to be a win-win person, you have to have integrity. It's the value we place on ourselves. We're going to listen to what other people have to say. As I've said before, habits 1, 2, and 3 help us to develop and maintain the integrity that's necessary to have this character. You have to have very good character, and you have to really care about other people. Then there's maturity. This is the balance between courage and consideration. It's hard to have the courage to talk to somebody about their attitude on a team. Perhaps they're the team leader. They've been there for 2 years. They cannot get along with anybody, and you have company cars, so you have to have teams. They're very valuable, but they simply will not give in and be nice to their partners. Your partners have taught you about it several times that this supervisor is just rude to them. You have to get the courage to go to that person and tell them they're rude, but you have to do it with consideration. Try and understand why they're rude. Give them some examples of things that they've said and ask them why they said that, and did they ever give any thought of saying it this way. Perhaps it's that simple that they just don't know any better, and they will react to your giving them guidance in how to communicate, because they're probably having the same problems in communicating with their family at home. They're always fighting with everybody, and nobody likes them because nobody's ever taught them how to do this. So you have to have the courage to do it, and you have to do it with consideration. Expressing feelings and convictions with courage balanced with the consideration and feelings and conviction of another is going to balance this all out. Win-win is nice, but it's tough. You can't just be the nice manager that everybody walks over all the time because people are not going to respect you then. Sometimes you have to be tough, but you have to do it in a nice way. I took over somebody's job once, and as he was training me, he said, Sharon, not everybody can always like you, but everybody can always respect you. That's one of the best things he ever said to me, and I think that's very true. That sometimes you're going to be nice and you're going to be tough, and they aren't going to like you when you are like that, just like your kids don't like you when you're tough. But they can respect you because you did it in a nice way. It requires an abundance mentality. You have to think that there's plenty out there for everybody versus that scarcity mentality where, oh my gosh, if I give this, there won't be anything for anybody else, or if I give into that, they're going to want to give me to give into everything. If I give them this, I'll have to give them everything. There's plenty enough out there for everybody. You do not have to be protective. Instead, you need to be giving and generous and make it all happen, because the more you do that, the more there will be for everybody. And you also have to learn to really be happy for everybody else. People find it very difficult to be happy for other people. If one of your cleaners comes to you and they have gotten a great job making $4 an hour more than they're making for you, are you happy for that? And it looks like it has career potential. Are you really happy for them, or are you like, oh, great, I lost another cleaner? Or are you the kind of person who really wants to see other people just get the best in life? That's win-win. You will always think of them, and you'll automatically think of yourself. That makes you a person who can think win-win when you're looking for somebody else's happiness as much as you're looking for your own. Cooperation in the workplace is as important to free enterprise as competition in the marketplace. And I don't think we as owners think about this. One more time. Cooperation, people getting along well in the workplace, good synergy, thinking win-win, is as important to free enterprise as competition in the marketplace is. Sometimes, I think way too often, we give a lot more attention to the external client than we do to the internal client. We are more concerned about competition in the marketplace than we are winning the game with our internal clients. There is a process to win-win, just like there's a process to anything. Anybody who knows me well knows I'm a very process-driven person, and to think win-win and to go in that direction requires a process. First, you need to see the problem from the other person's point of view. So you need to really listen to understand and not to be understood, as we will talk about in our part 3 of the trilogy. You need to see it from their point of view. Hard to do, because as owners we just see it from our point of view, but they have one too. Secondly, you need to identify the key issues and concerns, not the positions involved. Not your feelings, not your emotions, but this is how I feel about my side. Never mind how you feel, never mind how I feel. What is the problem here? What is the concern here, so that we can wrap our fingers around the problem and find a solution. We can't wrap our fingers around your feelings and my feelings because they're at a standoff. But we can certainly wrap our fingers around the issue and the concerns and how we can fix it. Third, determine what results would constitute a fully acceptable solution, like taking my company car to the doctor's office. If you are together, here's an example. Your employee comes to you. They have to work until 2 o'clock on Thursday. They have a doctor's appointment at 3. You know they won't be done until 2, and that client has to have them. There is no way they have time to go home, get their own car, drop off your company car if you're using company cars, and get them to the doctor. So the problem is getting the job done and getting to them to the doctor on time. Granted, they should have told you this a long time ago, because you wouldn't have booked their favorite occasional client at that particular spot, but they didn't, and that's neither here nor there right now. That's positions, and we don't go there right now. Problem is, how do we get all of this done? So you look at that person and say, if I get you to the doctor by 3 o'clock, are you willing to do this job? Yes. Great. Then let's do this. You don't go home. You bring your partners back to the office. We'll get them home. You go to the doctor, and you'll be there on time. That's a possible new position, and it'll give us the results that we need. That's thinking win-win and leaving the I can't believe you didn't tell me about this until now out of it, and then saying, well, I'm always there. You can always count on me. I can't believe that you're acting like this when I ask for one favor. Leave that all out of it, because it's just bad feelings. So what I'd like to do right now, this is the end of part 2 of the trilogy, The 7 Habits. Before you turn it off, please write what you think your standard mode of operation is. Are you win-win, win-lose, lose-win? Which one of these 6 are you? And I will go back to that screen. I want you to think of one lose-lose situation from your past management experiences and explain how you would turn that around into a win-win the next time you were faced with that situation. And I want you to think of one lose-lose situation for your past, Well, I guess I want you to do that twice. So just think of one lose-lose and tell me how you would turn it around into a win-win. And I'm going to go back to that screen for just a moment so you can see what the paradigms are. Win-win, win-lose, lose-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, win, and win-win or no deal. Which is most like you? For part 2, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first and thinking win-win. And I look forward to seeing you on the third part of the trilogy, Seek First to Understand, Then to Be Understood, one of our favorites for everyone and one we probably would like our employees to listen to. Synergize and Renewal, steps 5, 6, and 7. See you next time. Good luck, and I hope that you are practicing the 7 habits.